Welcome to InSTEM. So in today's interview, we are going to be demystifying engineering apprenticeships. I'm going to be speaking to Frida Risper, who is a manufacturing engineer at Rolls Royce. She began her career as an engineering apprentice. So if you'd like to find out about the pros, the cons, the career outlook of taking this route, then this interview is for you. I'm also going to be speaking to Frida about Edu-Cater, which is a social enterprise she established to promote STEM to diverse individuals across the world. Enjoy watching. Thank you very much, Frida, for coming along to InSTEM to share your engineering journey. Excited to speak to you today. Before we delve into your engineering experience, I thought we'd start off on a light note. So I've got like a sort of icebreaker question for you. Nice. So say you had $1 million at your disposal, what would you spend it on, or what would you do with it?
$1 million. I wish it was pounds, you get more. But I think for me, I would spend it on definitely maybe buy a family home first, because that's something I'm looking forward to. And then just spend it on my social enterprise and invest. Definitely look to invest for the future. Don't be one of these lottery holder tickets that spends everything and then you're broke after.
I like that. Those are quite smart answers, actually. Invest, obviously, is always a good thing to do with it. Your background is mechanical engineering. You work for Rolls Royce. You also own an initiative, which we're going to talk about towards the end of the interview. But what I find quite interesting about your profile is you didn't take the, conventional route to your mechanical engineering degree. You did an apprenticeship. Yeah. And I wanted to know what led you to choosing an apprenticeship route over university.
So for me, it all started in year 10, when I picked engineering GCSE. And I didn't pick it by choice. I literally picked it because my African parents were like, yeah, do engineering. So I wanted to be a musician to begin with. And everybody's always like, what? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, I literally compromised with engineering. But then I discovered once you picked it in GCSE, especially BTech, it was more hands-on. And I discovered I actually enjoy this. I could actually do this for a living. So instead, I ended up picking that later on for A-levels. So I was grateful and thankful that my school did sixth form, and in the sixth form they offered engineering BTech. So this enabled me to kind of see that, what applications or what skills do I need to actually be an engineer, etc. And I remember my school teacher, Mr. Shepherd, he lived in Derby. So he was always like, oh, Rolls Royce. And I thought the same as you, car manufacturing, this is like a luxurious car. That's literally what I thought of. And I thought somebody like me from Nottingham, I do not know anyone that works there. So it was all fresh to me. And he said, apply for the apprenticeship. I was like, what's an apprenticeship? I asking so many questions, something that I did not know. Our school did not promote apprenticeship. They literally promoted UCAS, apply for your top 5 unis, etc. So I thought, okay, why not? Let's do it. I've been doing engineering for 4 years already, so let's just apply. So I applied for that, but alongside it, I applied for doing like university, the traditional route as they call it. And one of my top universities was Aston Uni to do electrical engineering. So it was kind of like complete different routes. I didn't know the apprenticeship. I didn't even know what I was letting myself into. But I just did it because my teacher was a nice teacher and I thought, what have I got to lose? That's how I got into an apprenticeship. But my mom was so against it because she did not know anything about the apprenticeship. And she thought, you won't get a degree. You won't get a degree. And I thought, you will get a degree. And I had to kind of educate her in it as much as I had to educate myself. So that's how I got into the apprenticeship route.
What did the application process entail?
Yeah, I remember so especially being I think I was 17 or something. So you're pretty young. And this was my first proper job, should I say. It entailed applying online. So you had a series of questions. So they would ask you a bit about yourself, a bit about your extracurricular activities you do, your grades, just the typical application form that you get. But so at that point,
are you applying to Rolls Royce or are you applying to different organization at this stage?
Just Rolls Royce. I did not. Yeah. At this moment, I only did it to satisfy my teacher's, urge to just push me towards there. I didn't know anything about it. So I'm imagine applying for a job that you're still thinking it's a car manufacturing. Even 2 weeks before my interview, I still thought it was a car manufacturing company. That shows you how I did not know anything about what I was applying for. So I'm applying for it and thinking that, oh, okay, I'm into engineering. I'm answering these questions. And thankfully, I've got an older sister who kind of guided me about the typical questions you can answer and how to answer it. And I did that, and I submitted and we were going through UCAS stage. So at this point, my mind was going through applications anyway. So I kind of had to put the right skills. This is what I can do. This is what I've done, etc. So I was applying for UCAS and I was applying for this. So it didn't make much of a difference to me, really. And then afterwards, I got through to the interview stage. So actually, no, after I applied, I had to do psychometric tests. I didn't know anything about that. Imagine a 17-year-old and they're putting you through maths questions, through all those like shapes and identifying things and a bit of English. And you're thinking, my God, this is hard. And I'm not as good as maths, as everybody thinks an engineer should be, which is a surprise. And then I did that. So interestingly, I guess I passed because I got through the next stage, which was more of the assessment center. And that was a whole day. I remember, I think it was from 9 till like 3. And I had to stay over in Derby because I live in Nottingham. And I thought, wow, okay, I was super nervous. They asked you to prepare a bit about yourself, a presentation about yourself for 15 minutes. They asked you to also do their psychometric test again to make sure you didn't cheat. So you're doing all these calculations on paper. They also asked you a technical interview. And then you had a group assessment, which was, I think, build the tallest bridge that can have water standing on it, which is like a typical, group assessment thing. So to me, all of this was new. I was panicking, thinking, what? But I'm very structured. I like to get things prepared. So I made sure I prepared 2 weeks in advance. And my friend gave me I remember my friend gave me one of his like books about Rolls Royce. And
Right.
that's when I realized, it's jet engines that they do. It's not the cars. And then from there, I literally binged that book. I had to understand how a jet engine works, at least the typical, just the high level of it. And that helped me with the technical interviews as well.
That's interesting. That's quite a daunting experience to go through as a teenager. It sounds like it's what's expected of people who are going into industry after spending a number of years at university. So well done for getting through it.
Thank you.
I noticed also from just reading a little bit about you that you, whilst working at Rolls Royce, went to Sheffield Hallam University.
Yes.
Is this the typical form that an apprenticeship route would take? Would you work and study at the same time? Does this apply, sort of university? Yes. Okay.
So an apprenticeship is basically you work full time, depending on how it balances. But for us, it was working full time and then going to university and then also submitting all your coursework. So it was like part-time uni and full-time work. So people think, how does that work? But it has to work. So we literally worked 4 days out of 5. That one day every week we would get released to go to university. So I started off going to Sheffield Hallam. So, once every week. And then sometimes we would do block releases where you have maybe 1 whole week of going to university, then 2 weeks where you're back in, and then 1 week of uni, and you alternate. And then so during that day or that 1 week you've got of uni, you have to cover loads of modules. So you're literally doing an acceleration course because you still graduate after 4 years. And on top of that, you're still working. Yeah. So I remember that is the key to an apprenticeship. You work, you get paid, and you also study, and they pay for your university. So this was what actually got my mom on board. Like, I'll be debt free after this, and you still get a good engineering degree. So that's how an apprenticeship works.
Interesting. That leads on to my next question, actually. I know that you do a lot to promote apprenticeship to the younger generation. You're a role model. When I think of an engineer that's gone through the apprenticeship route, your name and picture tends to come to mind first. Yeah, you're doing a good job. It's clear that there are some, benefits. As you've mentioned, you finish university debt-free, you get paid whilst you're working, and you get hands-on experience with some of the best companies in the world from a young age. So you get to develop your confidence and a number of skills from pretty early on. Yes. I was thinking, when you're in the workplace and say, for example, you were going for a job with someone who had gone through a university degree, Does the fact that they've gone to university, does that give them an edge? Is someone with an apprenticeship qualification given as the same regard as someone who's gone to university?
Strangely, I think in industry, being realistic, they tend to value somebody that's gone through an apprenticeship versus somebody that's just come in as a graduate. The reason is because you remember they've invested 4 years of you, they've paid for basically everything, and they're also paying you on top, and you kind of grow up in a culture, so they're nurturing you. It's like they've literally nurtured you from you not knowing anything to now you actually being this engineer that you are. So you've got more skills that are relatable to the company. You basically know them inside and out, and you've tested it. You've gone around different placements. So with an apprenticeship, you're not just based in one place. You go down different departments. So you get to meet people. You get to build your stakeholders, your connections, etc. And I think people respect you more because they're like, oh, you've been at Rolls Royce 4 years already, and this is the time you're graduating. And you're like, yeah, I actually have. And you've learned so much. And being an apprentice means that you can fail and people don't actually look at you in a bad way. Whereas if you're a grad, you're basically coming in as this qualified person. So there's a lot of pressure on you to kind of show that, oh, my degree was not for anything, like it wasn't in vain. And I think that's the pressure that a lot of grads tend to get. You're meant to come and kickstart straight away, whereas an apprentice kind of gets like more of a leeway, which is very strange. But I'm a strong advocate for apprenticeships. Like they're the best thing. You still get a degree and you still get hands-on experience. But back in when I did my apprenticeship 2013, a lot of people said that I was dumb. So you've got this thing that maybe doing an apprenticeship, you're a dumb person, you can't get into university, that's why you had to do an apprenticeship. And that is not the case.
That wasn't the case because you were applying for, through UCAS at the same time. It was just when you weighed the options, the apprenticeship route was the more suitable one for you.
Exactly.
And still on the same theme as my previous question. So there were all these benefits that you've highlighted, but for someone I'm just trying to think along the lines of someone who may be considering doing an apprenticeship. I wanted to know how much influence you had with the university that you could attend. So I think you attended Sheffield Hallam University, as I mentioned before. There's a bit of freedom with applying via UCAS because I'm basically going through the league table or whatever list I've got, and actually saying and looking at the different conditions. So this is what I want to, this is what I like, this is what I prefer, this is what I'd like to go with. Do you get that level of flexibility with an apprenticeship and also with the company that you work for? So you've worked for Rolls Royce for the past 8 years thereabout, which I can tell you're having a great time there and you're enjoying being there. But are you tied to Rolls Royce for the rest of your life or for a certain time frame of your life?
So in terms of the university, you do not get to select your uni, as far as I know, on an apprenticeship. It's already pre-selected. The reason why is they've already got contracts with that university that they've selected. So they know that X amount of apprentices we intake every year, and they're going to get a place here. So all that is already kind of done and dusted, and that's a part of the contract, which I think for me, that was the downfall, because I wanted to go to probably a different university. I never applied for any. I think I only applied for Sheffield University, not Sheffield Hallam. The reason for this is because when you're looking at engineering, when you're looking at, the leagues and the tables, like you said, I had to look through the Times leagues and get an idea of what's the best university. And you always want to go to the best uni for your course. And Sheffield Hallam didn't rank as high as Sheffield University, for example, but joining the apprenticeship, you didn't get that. That's probably the only downside. You don't get a choice in your own university. I'm not sure about other companies, maybe now they do, but I would imagine they've got a contract tied with that particular uni and you don't get much leeway in that. However, when you do go to do your master's, for example, if they're going to then sponsor you to do a master's on top of that, I think you've got more of a choice with the universities that the company is working with.
Right.
So maybe that's where the freedom will come. But if you want a uni, a company is in association with, then I'll probably say that's not the best thing. But you're going to be in the same pool of people that I'm in the same pool of people as that I've gone to Cambridge University, Oxford University, Cranfield, and I'm still doing the same job as them. So you have to think, what is that uni going to offer you that your apprenticeship cannot offer you? And if you see that there's a massive gap, a massive delta, then of course go to the traditional route. And if you think you're going to be in research and development and you're an academic, go to university, don't do an apprenticeship. But if you're more of an industry person, then I would say do an apprenticeship, because you get that degree that has similar, yes, it may not be the best university for engineering, but it's giving me the applied skills that I need to be able to do my job. And that's all that matters to me. At the end of the day, they're not going to see, oh, Sheffield Hallam. They're just going to see somebody that's got a first-class degree in mechanical engineering that works at Rolls Royce for 8 years. So I think that industry thing adds more weighing when you're moving around different companies. In terms of loyalty, I think Rolls Royce at the moment it's so big that you can still move around. So I've moved around 3 different jobs now. I've got a management secondment job, which is I think for me, as long as the company is big enough to move around, I'm going to be there. But I haven't got to a point where I'm thinking, I'm a bit bored of it, because it's so big, and it's a global company. So if you get tired of being in Derby, you can always move to Bristol, move to Scotland, move in North America. So there's so many opportunities.
If you did want to experience a completely different type of company though, how would that work? Could you leave?
Yeah, you could leave.
Company that sponsored you and paid you right from your teenage years.
Yeah, so you can leave. I think there is a clause after, I'm not sure with apprenticeships actually, but I think there might be a clause that says maybe you stay with the company for 1 or 2 years. I'm not sure because I've never explored that, but some companies do have clauses. So you have to be careful that, you make sure if you're going to do the apprenticeship, make sure you finish it. But if you're not going to finish it, then fair enough. I don't know if you would have to pay back and stuff, but I always think you might as well finish it. Then after 4 years, if you hate it, just move on to a different company, but at least you've bagged yourself a degree.
Yeah. Sounds like a smart choice to make. So what kind of work do you do at Rolls Royce?
Yes, that's a big question. So at the moment, I'm in a place where it's the best way to describe it is, so we manufacture jet engines as Rolls Royce, but the place that I'm in is, think about taking your car to a garage. That is what we're doing. So we're the aftermarket. So all the jet engines that have been manufactured by Rolls Royce that need to be maintained by Rolls Royce come into us, and we have to strip the engine, so disassemble it, repair the engine, and then assemble it and send the engines to test and then be dispatched to customer. So that's kind of like the process flow that we do. But my particular job is supporting the shop floor. So any technical queries that are hindering this engine from progressing, it could be anything. It could be something wrong with the instructions that we've given them. It could be something wrong with the drawings, the tooling. It could be anything. And the reason I chose this particular job is because it gets me outside my comfort zone. I'm a good planner. I like to plan things and know things and know what I'm doing. Whereas with this job, any day could be different. You're literally on the line, and it's exciting because once you've solved that issue, you're like, wow, I've actually contributed towards this engine, making it closer to the door. So it's rewarding in that sense. Being an engineer, that's the beauty. You get to, so you can come into my industry and I can go into your industry, and you'll apply the same logic, but to a different component. So it doesn't matter whether you're manufacturing, I don't know, food or engines or cars, whatever it is, as long as you're good at problem solving and you're good at that root cause analysis, and and you enjoy people.
You're speaking my language at the moment.
Yeah, it's true.
You breathe problem solving, working in operations. Yeah, it's a very interesting experience. I'd recommend it to anyone watching this to get that experience at some point in their engineering career. Interesting. Okay, so Edu-Cater Global is an initiative that you founded a couple of years ago?
Yeah, 2019 now.
2019, so yeah, I'm closing in on 3 years. I understand it to be a STEM initiative to promote opportunities in STEM to the younger generation. Can you tell us a bit more about it and what led you to founding it in the first place?
So yeah, the reason I founded it is I've been doing STEM activities since I was in year 12 and 13, studying A-levels. And it's one of those things I thought I want to do more. And the reason why we set it up with 2 other engineers is being able to do the global aspect. So right now it seems very far far-fetched with global, with COVID and stuff. However, before we wanted to reach more countries, we wanted to be able to have this vehicle to be able to drive STEM across different parts of the world. And one of them being Africa, which is close to my heart, and Kenya is one of the first countries that we've started pushing this initiative with towards, and even in the UK as well. So those are the two places that we're launching our initiatives in. So that was the reason behind founding Edu-Cater Global.
Why do you think STEM can make a difference in the world and in the countries that you mentioned, like Kenya, for example?
Yeah, I think STEM is one of those subjects that are not even subjects, subjects that are interchangeable globally. Like there's a question that somebody asked me is, look around your room, what can you find that was not manufactured or STEM or engineering was not a part of? And everything, even this cup, like it still goes through, you can't see, it still goes through a manufacturing process, which is engineering. So everything, even wallpapers, everything requires a bit of STEM, whether people like to hear it or not. So it's one of those subjects that I want people to be able to understand that once you're into a STEM industry, it's unlimited. Basically, you've got loads of access to be able to do so many things, and you can help yourself as well. It's one of those careers, once you're in it, you can get paid more than some of the industries, so you can help your family and your communities out a bit more. And it's one of those things that they can move you as and when. It's like doctors, you can be moved as and when. And being a doctor is still science. So, and we should even expand it to STEAM, because with the arts, aspects of science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths, and all of that, the arts is the innovative part of your brain. And as an engineer, you need to be innovative, whether you like it or not. People think engineers are boring, but we're not boring, because problem solving is still a creative way to go around that problem. But it's not painting as everybody thinks, but you're still using your creative aspect to come up with that solution. So that's why I promote it globally, so people can help themselves to be able to empower their community and make the changes, that are needed.
Sounds like an amazing initiative. I will definitely be sharing the links in the video so people can learn more about it. Moving on to the final question now, what would you say to your younger self?
Yeah, but that's a big question. I think for me is to stay true to yourself. Like, basically, I know it's cheesy, but it's true, because your personality, you as a person, you're the person that you make that role, you make that job yourself. So some people are always like, oh, I hate this job, or I hate this, or I hate that. But try and think of things in a positive light, if that makes sense, or try and change it. So be authentic, be your authentic self. And I've always been like that. I think bringing your true self to work as much as possible is something I would tell everybody. Don't change yourself to conform, because I could have easily conformed to the Rolls Royce typical person. Because I remember on my first day, I'll give this last story, I was wearing orange, I stood out, I was the only Black girl there. And if you look at this picture of us out of 150 plus people, I'm in the middle, as like, do I fit in? I'm not a male, I'm not wearing blue, I'm wearing a color that is completely outside of Rolls Royce. Their colors are like blue, gray, black, and I'm wearing orange. And to that day, I looked around and said, I could have easily hid myself and said, oh, I'm not bringing Frida to work, I'm gonna just keep her at home. But no, I said, you know what? I'm here, they've chosen me for a reason. Don't feel like an imposter, especially a lot of people may feel like, why am I in this company? Why did they pick me? Am I just a tick in the box? No, don't feel that. Like, you're there for a purpose, and then utilize that purpose to do better and bigger things. So for me, it's Edu-Cater Global. So Rolls Royce has helped me, nurtured me, and I want to be able to give that back on a bigger scale. So that's one tip for me. Stay true to yourself. And yeah.
That's a great advice. Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed speaking to you. I've learned a few things myself. And yeah, I'm sure the people that are watching have taken at least one or two things away. And make sure you share your takeaways in the comments section, and make sure you hit the subscribe button as well for more videos. Thank you again, Frida.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.